With the 2025 NBA Draft officially in the rearview mirror, Summer League is coming up very soon, and with that, a look at the first-year rookies and a potential look at sophomores as they hope to improve from their rookie seasons. And taking a look at the Washington Wizards 2025 NBA Summer League roster, you can see that they have one of the more stacked teams in the field and maybe just in Summer League history. Sporting a combined 7 first-round picks from the last 2 drafts, I want to take a look at not only the first-round picks, but the entire roster as a whole and examine the players, looking at what they can improve on from last year, and if they're rookies, what you should expect for them in this summer league. But before I get into more individual player analysis, I want to take a step back and look at the roster as a whole. The roster as a whole has 15 total players, including the 3 rookies that were drafted this year, as well as 5 former first round picks coming into their sophomore season. And there's 4 total undrafted free agents from this year's draft, as well as 3 guys who have already been playing pro basketball. First, I want to look at the rookies, looking at our first round picks in Tre Johnson and Riley, as well as our second round pick this year, Jamir Watkins. Now, at its heart, I think Summer League is just an event for the rookies. Yes, guys in their second and third and fourth years do end up playing, but at its heart, it's about watching the rookies who just got drafted be able to show off their first glimpse in the NBA. So with that said, I would anticipate all the rookies to end up playing all 5 games in the Summer League. Now, as I'll get into with some of the later guys, I don't think everyone on the team is going to play all 5 games. But like I said, Summer League being an event for the rookies to show off their first glimpse of NBA action, kind of getting their feet wet, I would expect all 3 of the rookies to play most of the games. I think there's a possibility a guy like Tre could perform so well in the first 3 games that he might not finish it out. But even still, I would expect them to play the majority of the games in Summer League. Before I get into what to look out for, I do want to preface that obviously this is Summer League. I think it's been well documented that guys in Summer League struggle and then end up being perfectly fine NBA players. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt. But more of what I'm going to say, what to expect and what you hope to watch for, all of it is going to be just in the process, right? If a guy needs to shoot the ball well, if he's getting good looks, even if they're not necessarily falling, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, you want to make shots, but just prefacing that it's a small sample. This stuff really doesn't matter. It's just kind of the process of way that things happen that you need to look out for. So starting with Tre Johnson, I think the big thing that I'm going to be watching for is just the overall shot diet. Is it more perimeter oriented like it was at Texas, or is he making an active attempt to try to get to the rim and open that game up a little bit more? As well as that, I want to just look at the defense. I don't expect him to be coming out like Kawhi, but is he engaged? Is he trying to get his hands on balls? Just that sort of stuff is what I'm looking for with Tre Johnson. And for Will Riley, the main thing that I'm going to be looking for is just at the defense. I just want to see how he matches up with the NBA level players physicality wise. Is he getting pushed off his spots? Is he not quick enough to keep up? Is he attempting to try to be disruptive, getting steals and blocks, as that was one of his biggest weaknesses in college? And just overall defensively, is he standing out in a bad way, or can you kind of hide him a little bit on that end? And lastly, with Jamir Watkins, I kind of want to see if a real skill pops out when you watch him. Is it the defense? Is it the downhill ability? What kind of sticks out for him as a guy in college who was more of a jack of all trades guy, master of none? Is he kind of finding a skill and a niche at the NBA level just in this little sample size? As well as that, you want to check the jumper, see if he's knocking down threes at a good clip. But that's what I'm maybe looking for with Jamir. But if you do want to see a little bit of a longer video breaking down the rookies' games, looking at their strengths, weaknesses, and year 1 projection, my last video was on just that. But finish this video out, and then once you're done with this one, go watch that one. Good stuff about the rookies. But yeah, going on to the sophomores. I first want to take a look at the sophomores the Wizards directly drafted last year with Sarr Bub Carrington and Keyshawn George. Now, if you're a Wizards fan or just a general NBA fan, you should know more or less what you're going to expect from these guys in Summer League. Sarr made all-rookie first team last year, Bub made all-rookie second team, and Keyshawn was basically right on the border. And I don't expect these guys to come out and play every game in Summer League, probably just the first 1 or 2, just to kind of show off the gains they made in the offseason. But I don't think it's entirely non-valuable for these guys to play in Summer League this year. I think it's good to show off with the gains you've been making in your first real NBA offseason. As well as that, I think it's always just been a good omen for second-year guys to come into Summer League and just kind of show that they don't belong, just completely hoop out of your mind to say, I don't need to play in Summer League anymore because I'm past this level. So I just want to rattle off a couple things I'm looking for from the sophomores just to see what they hopefully developed going from year 1 to year 2 to make sure they're on track as they keep going in their NBA careers. Starting with Sarr, the big thing that I want to see from him in Summer League is just kind of the overall strength development you've seen and how that translates to more big man related skills. I think the majority of Sarr's bright spots this year came from his more finesse skills, whether bringing the ball up in transition, kind of that short roll passing, more finesse stuff. But what I want to see in this Summer League is how he developed his genuine big man skills, blocking shots, rebounding the basketball, being more physical down low. Just that overall strength development that you see from young players, I want to see Sarr really put that on display, maybe come out with a strong double-double, just really control the game as a physical big. And looking at Bub Carrington, with Jordan Poole being traded in the offseason, that opens up Bub to be one of the main creators on this Washington Wizards team. So what I want to see him do in Summer League is really take that reins and be the main creator, be the main ball handler of the team, whether it be in the vein of pick and roll play or just kind of getting the team into sets. I want to see him take on that lead kind of guard creator role, as well as that I want to see him be able to get into the paint a bit more, as I think that'll open up his entire game from the shot making standpoint and from the playmaking standpoint. So just being that lead guard as well as trying to get to the rim more often. And lastly, finishing with Keyshawn George, I think Keyshawn is maybe our most impactful all-around rookie last season. I don't necessarily have a whole lot to nitpick because I think his game is very consistent across the board. But if I did have to highlight one thing, I think I'd like to see him take more of a creation burden, kind of playing in that more connective wing role, just having more on-ball juice, being able to create for himself a little bit more would be nice to see. But with him, it's just kind of like making sure the process is good. If he's getting good looks, making the right passes, playing solid defense, that's all you're really going to need from Keyshawn. I wouldn't expect him to go out and drop 30, but he's kind of just a player who's going to fit in and just look like he knows how to play basketball. Now, finishing off the sophomores, I do want to take a look at AJ Johnson and Dylan Jones. Now, I didn't include these two with the other sophomores because I think they come into this summer league in a different spot than the other three did. While both are entering their sophomore seasons, both did not start out with the Washington Wizards and were not drafted by us, with AJ being acquired by the Bucks in the Kyle Kuzma trade, and Dylan Jones being shipped off this offseason for a second-round pick and more or less moved just to get OKC some roster space. And critically, what I think that means for these two guys is they're going to have to work themselves into an entirely new organization. And unlike the previous three sophomores, those guys had an entire season to work themselves into the framework of the Washington Wizards. And even though a guy like AJ did come to the Wizards mid-season, he still kind of came in that vein of late season basketball where a lot of guys are getting opportunities that they normally wouldn't get via injuries or just kind of the late season shutdowns. So simply, these guys are starting over in completely new organizations and kind of have to work themselves into a core that's already more or less established. But Summer League provides them with a rare opportunity where they can kind of show off their skills and an opportunity to present themselves as future members of the core. Now, starting with AJ Johnson, if you did follow the Washington Wizards to end last season, I'm sure you know all about AJ and his highlight dunks, and honestly the frankly special stuff he showed getting to the hoop and just being an athlete last season. But beyond the fun highlights, I do think AJ has a long way to go to be more of a productive player within his role, and I think Summer League gives him an opportunity to showcase that. For starters, AJ has to become a better shooter. He only shot around 25% from 3 last year, on decent volume in the last 20 games he played with the Wizards. And critically, the main thing with AJ is just kind of how he fits into an NBA role. He's someone who excels when he has the ball in his hands, getting to the rim, which is one of his main skills, and for good reason. He had a lot of fun finishes and fun dunks last year, but he's not necessarily the best playmaker or passer to warrant that level of on-ball time, which kind of puts him in a gray area of being someone who needs the basketball to succeed, but not necessarily passing the high watermark needed to be an on-ball creator in the NBA. So to tie that back to Summer League and just the shooting point that I made earlier, if AJ can find his jumper to a point where he can be someone who's a threat off the basketball to shoot it a little bit, he can warrant that more secondary level creation where he can be someone who can both cut off the basketball, shoot off the basketball, and kind of handle some responsibilities on the basketball, which is kind of the fine area where you can see AJ fitting in. But it's a lot of circumstances, and he's going to have to show himself in Summer League to warrant that. But like I said, it's an open opportunity, open tryouts for him to prove that to the Washington Wizards that he can fit in the team. Now, looking at Dylan Jones spent the entire season in OKC's system last year, and obviously that means he didn't play a whole lot outside of minutes in the G League. Now, I'd be remiss not to mention that a team, especially like OKC, giving up on you after year one probably isn't the best sign for your future NBA productivity, but Dylan does some things that hopefully could be impactful in the future. Dylan Jones is a pretty unorthodox game in basically every single way. Just by looking at him, he's only about 6'5", but he's pretty much a point guard in the NBA level, and to be quite frank, he's a bit chubby. What I would say is his main NBA skill is definitely his passing, but like I mentioned, he does have a bit of a weird frame for the position, and there's just a bit of question marks how a guy who kind of lives on the basketball, doesn't shoot it all that well, and kind of is a good playmaker, can really survive in the NBA, just kind of in that unorthodox nature. To be quite honest, to me, Dylan Jones is easily the biggest wild card on this team. He does some stuff at an NBA level, but the ways of which they're going to come to fruition and translate into the NBA just raise a bit of questions for me, and his only real samples come from the mid-major and G League level, which kind of furthers the unorthodox nature of Dylan Jones. But I'm excited to see what he can do. Maybe he can surprise us, show some stuff that I'm not necessarily anticipating. Now, looking at probably my favorite group of the team in the undrafted free agents, looking at Kadar Richmond from St. John's, Jonathan Pierre from Belmont, Keyshawn Gilbert from Iowa State, and Zeke Mayo from Kansas. Now, I want to point out with most summer summer league teams signing undrafted free agents, a lot of them are like mid-major guys you've never heard of, or just kind of like they worked out once or twice and they had a good workout, made an impression on the team. But these 4 guys are genuinely all top 100 guys. Now, I didn't expect any of these guys to necessarily get drafted, but I did expect them to get picked up on like 2-way contracts. So finding 4 guys in the top 100 to come be undrafted free agents on your summer league team is super high level, and I can't really understate that this is a fantastic class from the scouts and from Will Dawkins to find an undrafted free agency. First, I want to start off with Kadari Richmond out of St. John's, and as a Georgetown fan, I know all too well how good this man could be at the NBA level. Kadari started his college career as a freshman at Syracuse before transferring to Seton Hall for his sophomore, junior, and senior seasons before finishing out his grad year at St. John's. Now, Kadari's immediate NBA skill is going to be his perimeter defense. As someone who has great size at about 6'5" with a 6'11" wingspan, Kadari absolutely terrorizes people on defense and has great steal numbers to back it up. As well as that, he's a fantastic playmaker who can put pressure on the rim, but one of his main deterrents is the fact that he's not that good of a shooter. He only shot 17% from 3 on the year and around 53% as a free throw line, which is honestly really bad for a guard. However, there is clear appeal for a guy who's 6'5" and can really guard and pass the ball. However, he is going to have to find some stability on the offensive side of the ball, specifically as a shooter, if he wants to stick in the NBA. Then looking next at Zeke Mayo, if you are a college basketball fan, you likely know the name. He spent 3 years at South Dakota State, kind of terrorizing the mid-major level before transferring up to Kansas. Now, Zeke didn't have the best senior season at Kansas. However, he did show off his elite shooting prowess, which was consistent from his years at South Dakota State, and he does have a good feel for the game. However, he's a pretty small frame physically and isn't the elite playmaker you need to be to survive at his height in the NBA level, but his shooting talent does give him a pathway to succeed in the NBA. Then taking a look at Keyshawn Gilbert from Iowa State, I think it's always a good idea to look at players from winning programs, and that's definitely what Keyshawn Gilbert is. While he doesn't necessarily have a standout trait, he's just kind of a good basketball player. He defends well, he can make good passes. He's never been the greatest shooter, but it's a passable level. The big thing for him is that he doesn't really stick out in any noticeable way at the NBA level. He's going to have to become a better shooter. He's going to have to cut down on the turnovers and really find his niche in the NBA. He definitely has the talent to do that. Like I said, finding good players from good schools is always a good strategy. Then lastly, taking a look at Jonathan Pierre from Belmont. Pierre spent his first 2 years at D2 Nova Southeastern in Florida before transferring to Memphis, where he didn't get much playing time his junior season, and then transferring to Belmont for his senior season. In his senior season at Belmont, Pierre showed off the ability to shoot the ball really well, shooting at about 37%, as well as that he has a good playmaking feel and some good defensive tools that give him a sell as a wing who can do a lot of things on the basketball court. However, he was a pretty bad finisher at the rim and only has 1 real year of good production at the D1 level, and even still, that was at a mid-major school, so it's tough to see an NBA translation directly, but Pierre definitely has the tools to be a productive NBA player at some point. Then briefly touching on the last group here, being the guys currently playing professional basketball. Now, if you're a college basketball nerd, you might recognize the names Liam Robbins and Leaky Black, with Liam Robbins playing at Vanderbilt and Leaky Black playing at UNC. Both went undrafted in 2023 and have bounced around the G League and actually got real NBA minutes with the Bucks and Hornets respectively. I think you more or less know what you're going to get with these guys, but I do think they're valuable as kind of depth pieces who know and have real NBA experience, and Liam Robbins specifically is going to help when Sarr is presumably done with his couple games in Summer League as like big man depth. Then looking at Akol Nagak, he was undrafted in 2022 and kind of bounced around the NBL in Australia and the G League, putting up pretty unremarkable numbers in both, but can just kind of serve as a body on the team. Wouldn't expect him to play a whole lot. But yeah, that is the 2025 Washington Wizards Summer League team breakdown. As a fan, I'm super excited to watch, mainly the rookies, Tre Johnson, Riley Jamir Watkins, all of them. But even the sophomores, like I said, I really do like this undrafted free agency class a lot. But yeah, that's the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Probably going to drop some videos about the top performers from this year's class and just do a recap video once the Summer League's all over. So yeah, subscribe for all that stuff, and I will see you guys next time.